Hi everybody, it's Lori and I'm here today to show you how to do a really simple ice resin pendant. This is the ice resin that we're going to be using, and then we've got some products from Spellbinders from the Media Mixage, their bezels, some of their die cuts, their embossing plates, and some copper. So let's get going. First thing you want to do is cut out your shape, and I'm using, as I said, copper here, and of course I'm going to use my Artisan Explorer machine to cut out my shape. And I like to run it back and forth a few times just to be sure you get that deep cut as much as you can. You may even still need to press out a little bit, but it generally pops out pretty quick for you. Next, we are going to emboss our copper. And there again, we're using our same Spellbinders machine. I like to work with some of my die cuts in the top corners. There's a little more pressure on your machine sometimes that you can get a little bit deeper. And look how pretty that turned out. Lovely. So now we're going to do a little faux enameling, and I'm just using some embossing powders. And the first thing I'm going to do is use Versamark, which is a clear ink, and just kind of randomly put it over. I don't want it all the way because I want the copper to still show through in some parts. If you get a little too much, just use your finger, take it away. So let's go heat emboss that. And now it's heat embossed, beautiful. And now we're going to add some of the green embossing. And for this I'm using a paintbrush and some of the clear embossing liquid, and just painting it kind of in the crevices because I just want it to be a little more controlled where I want my embossing to be. And I love my tweezers. Got to have my pointy tweezers. I use those all the time. There again, if it's not quite like you like it, whisk a little away with your fingers. So there we've got the two colors kind of modeled together. And next we're going to use basically some chunky embossing powder. This is by Wow, but there are other companies that make the thick embossing powder. And I'm just going to run the edges only of my pendant there, and then dip it in. And you can see it gives it a really nice edge. And I'm going to go along and do it on the other two sides. And it'll give a really nice chunky edge feel to it. Love the way this stuff works. Look at that, isn't that pretty? And it fits right in our bezel. It's so much fun, so easy. These are some letters and words that I have from Authentique. And I'm just going to pick some things out, kind of space them where I want them to go. And then I'm going to ink the edges with StazOn. And you want to be sure you use StazOn ink if you're going to be using the ice resin. Anything else, you want to be sure it's really dry, but the StazOn will make sure that the ink stays on the paper and doesn't float off into your resin, for heaven's sakes. Next, I've got some really cute little crystal hearts from Kaisercraft. And granted, these are plastic. You got to be a little careful with the plastic and the ice resin because it will take away some of the shine. But for what I want, these sparklet hearts work perfect, and they still looked domed and good. I'm just gluing down with some of this Dries Clear glue exactly where I want my words. And now the really fun, magical part. Ice resin! So this is a great plunger because it equally measures the hardener and the resin together. So there's not any mixing or measuring that you have to do. It does it for you. And you just want to stir it up really good. Stir, 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 stir. Get your sides. And don't worry about the air bubbles. They will come up as it dries. You can also set your piece on something warm, a warm light, even a warming tray if you've got one to help those bubbles rise up. Pop your piece down in your bezel, and then though this looks quick, you're going to slowly pour it in and do a little bit at a time. You don't want to over pour and have it pour out of your resin, your bezel, sorry. You want to be sure you just slowly pour it in just to the edge. As I said, the video made it look a little bit quicker, but take your time with it. A few drops at a time works well. Now it's just letting that baby dry. Here's the finished piece. The twig at the top of my pen was actually from a twig I found in my yard. I made a mold of it and then used the ice resin with some coloring powder to color it up, and then added in a metal jump ring so that it would be a little more stable holding off of the metal versus the plastic. And so I cast this whole twig to go with it. And here's a close-up of our resin piece. Isn't it beautiful? Love the way this turned out. Please be sure to visit my blog at pinkcloudscrappers@blogspot.com for more work and more tutorials. Thanks, and this has been fun.